Hello and welcome everyone to the Middle School Theater PLC group. I am Jodian Henry and I will be your moderator. I am so excited that you've chosen to join the Godot community. I am looking forward to sharing ideas, sharing about my experience, and engaging in discussion with you all. Hopefully you were able to check out the first video where I really introduced myself and gave you a little bit of info on my background as a teacher and who I am. For today's webinar, I will be sharing with you my classroom setup. I will also be sharing with you some of my favorite units, lessons, and activities that I enjoy teaching, as well as some classroom management strategies and engagement strategies that I have found to absolutely work for me in my virtual classroom as well as in person. Now, I've had the privilege of teaching in several different spaces. I know that some of us are teaching our theater classes in the auditorium. Some of us are in a black box theater or a general classroom, and now we're having to adjust our space to abide by the social distancing guidelines. I will talk about some of the pros and the cons of being in these spaces and my own personal experience and how I was able to set up my classroom to accommodate my lessons and student performances and activities. So first, the auditorium. When I first started teaching high school, my theater classrooms were in the auditorium. I had the students sitting in a designated seating area in the center of the auditorium at the front, in front of the apron of the stage. So the students would sit in the first 4 or 5 rows depending on the size of the class, and that's where they would congregate at the beginning of every class period. I would use the stage area for our warm-ups, for our games, and for our performances. It was also great because of the size of the stage. I was able to have students work in small groups and rehearse in different areas of the stage and not necessarily distract each other as would be the case in a classroom. I would have them congregate in a circle on the stage for our warm-ups, or for games they would sit on the floor or they would sit in chairs, especially during scene work when they were presenting scenes and we're workshopping scenes. We would all sit in a circle and they would present and watch and give feedback and such. For any formal lecture, I would bring in my portable whiteboard that I would roll in every morning and put up at the end of the classroom. And I also had a portable projector that I would use to show my PowerPoints or videos on the board. Now, here is a quick video that shows what my classroom looked like at the beginning and end of last school year. As you can see, I had an area where the students would submit their work. I had long tables, which allowed me to have the students sit on the perimeter of the room and have that open area to be our performance space where we could do any type of warm-up and games and present scenes in the center of the room. I was able to seat maybe around 6 students at each table. I also had 3 computers in the back of the room, and I also displayed a lot of my student work on the walls. There you can see the call board where I would display any announcement for shows or rehearsals or post announcements for colleges. I would also put on that call board. What you're seeing right now is my inspirational wall. So I would post a lot of quotes from plays or just quotes that I think the students might find inspirational. I have this mirror that's here, and I mention it because in the morning, a lot of my students will use this mirror to check themselves at the beginning of class, especially when I talk about dress code. I also have a word wall in my room where any new vocabulary word that we learn at the end of the unit, we would post them on the word wall. As you may have seen in the video, I display a lot of student work. So in the back of the room, I also have a set of cabinets where I'm also able to display student projects and work on the actual cabinets and also at the top. There's a costume project where my students did where they made costumes out of recycled material, and I also have one of the best ones posted on the wall in the classroom. On the call board, there's also a section where I post data. So you're able to see students' progress and growth in the class as it pertains to written assignments and their overall grade throughout the semester or throughout the school year. On the back wall, you're not able to see in the video at this time, but I have an interactive board and a whiteboard. I also have a section on that wall where I post my standards. It's just convenient for me to have because I can always refer to the standards on the wall, to my students, or for myself as I'm teaching a lesson. Also, if someone is able to visit my classroom, they're able to see the specific standards and how what we're doing in class aligns with those specific standards. I use the interactive board. I'm able to display videos, PowerPoints. On the screen, I'm able to share and watch. So if I record a performance, we can watch it and give feedback and critique. So that's primarily what I use the interactive board for. There's also a hat wall in my room that just comes in handy when the students are doing improv scenes. They can pull a hat from the wall and use it as a part of their performance. So that is what my classroom at the end of last school year looks like. This is what my classroom looks like currently. As you can see, the decor hasn't really changed. I still have a lot of posters, inspirational posters with information regarding theater, acting terms on the wall, student works on the wall, but you may notice a change in the seating arrangements. I still have the long tables, but now I have no more than 3 students at each table. So you may have one chair here, another chair here. I also have tape that I mark out each section, each station. I also have them labeled on the desk, station 1, as you can see here. I also have labels on the table and on the chairs. Just as a reminder, please sit here. That's a picture of the hat wall there, as you can see. I also have a book at each station, and I also have a sanitizing station at the entrance of the room with my hand sanitizer and wipes, so students can utilize that as they're entering the room and also leaving the room. But as you can see, I have about 2 students at each long table, which is 1 student at each section of the table. And I still have the center area of the room open. That just allows for movement and performance and presentation. Now, currently my students are still full virtual while I am teaching from the classroom. So this is how I set up the space for that. I may have my Chromebook computer on this table here, and I'm able to move around and demonstrate in this space. I use my desktop computer to also join the meeting, and I'm able to display my screen on the interactive board. So as I'm moving around, I can see the students on my screen. I am able to share any PowerPoints or pictures or videos from my Chromebook into the meeting, so the students are still able to see, and I'm able to share that with my Chromebook. I also have a webcam that I'm able to set up at different areas in the room to follow me or to see what I'm doing as I move around the space. I am also able to set that webcam near the whiteboard. So let's say I am writing on the board and I need the students to see up close exactly what I'm writing. I can also position that webcam so they're able to see and they can pin that video to see up close what I'm writing. So those are some ways that I set up my classroom now to teach virtually. Now here are some of my favorite lessons that I have taught and that I think are applicable and can be modified for grade 6, 7, and 8. So the first unit I'd like to share with you is a unit on Greek theater. And these are just a list of activities that I use to teach this particular unit. So I generally start off with a word search as a bell ringer, an opener for this unit as the students are coming in the classroom. Then I would play a Identify the Greek God quiz / game. This usually hooks the students and it allows me to assess any prior knowledge as it relates to Greek mythology, and they get very excited about talking about this and playing the game. Games are always great because they're very competitive and it gets them engaged and having fun while learning. Then I would share a video with them, a short video that talks about the origins of Greek drama. You can find tons of videos, great educational resources on YouTube or online. I particularly like Crash Course Theater, so I would share that video with the class. They would watch it and take notes as they watch. And then we will talk about what they saw, questions that they have, and then I also do a formal lecture, PowerPoint presentation that I share with them that go over the origins of Greek drama and the elements of Greek theater. Then I also have them do a group assignment, a WebQuest activity. They also do a script writing activity as well as a mask making activity, and then it all culminates in a performance of an original Greek tragedy. So the first main assignment relating to this unit is the WebQuest activity. So as you can see in the picture, students are working in groups of 3s, sometimes 2s. Some of more advanced students may opt to work individually, but I do give the students a chance. However, they're working in small groups and they are researching using the website and the links to find the answers to the questions on this WebQuest. I have paper copies of the WebQuest that they'll have at each table, as well as I have a QR code that they can scan and open up the document on their phone. They are collaborating to answer all the questions on the WebQuest, and I encourage them to not just work individually to complete the entire worksheet, but they are responsible for teaching each other. So if you are researching or looking up the answers to questions 1 through 10, you're not just giving the other person the answer, but you're explaining and expounding on what you read and why you think this is the answer. So that's one of the objective and aim for this, that they're teaching each other and teaching themselves. Of course, at the end of this activity, we go over the answers. I encourage them to make sure that everyone in the group, whether they were responsible for answering that particular section, they actually know the information, because as we're going over the answers in class, I may randomly select one person to answer this question, and they should be able to explain to the class what it is and why. The second activity relating to this unit that they do is the script writing. They write their own Greek tragedy. So I may put them in groups of 4s this time, and they will write and perform the play according to the play structure, using that play structure as a reference to write their script. They can use a Greek myth or another Greek play. They can write their own adaptation of it, or they can come up with their own story, but it needs to follow this format. Everyone in the group is expected to be a writer and to be an actor. Each script will have at least 4 characters. 2 of the actors in the group will play the main characters, and the other 2 members will be a part of the chorus. I also stress that the chorus is actually a character in the story also. They're not just there to comment and to sort of narrate. The students will then make masks for each of the characters in the script. But here is a brief outline. Here is a brief outline of the play structure that they follow. So in the prologue, the characters speak directly to the audience and they tell us what the play is going to be about and what we're expected to learn. Then following, the chorus tells us what's happened before the beginning of the play, so they give us a little bit of the background. Then the characters, they act out the beginning action of the play. And of course, the 2 main actors are using the mask to indicate a change in character. Then the chorus presents a poem or a song, and they find a song or a poem that connects with the theme of the play or expresses the mood of the play up to that particular part in the story. Then following, the characters again act out the next part of the story, and during this moment, the chorus is allowed to comment on the action of the play or to ask questions. After that, we have another choral ode. So again, the chorus presents a poem or a song that they think connects with the play or the theme of the play. And then in the end, the final episode, the characters act out the end. And then the exodus, the chorus tells the audience what they should learn or what they should have learned from the story. So they use this particular structure to guide their script writing process. Next, they are tasked with making the mask. They make papier-mâché masks using balloons, glue, paste, paint, yarn, any type of material that they have to decorate the mask. For my particular class, again, they were making papier-mâché masks. So as you can see pictured here, they are pasting the newspaper to the balloon. And this takes a couple of days because they have to let it dry before they're able to add another layer. Then here you can see the student, she's decorating the mask. And again, these masks have to connect with the personality and the characters that are in their script that they wrote. And they're able to use any type of material that they can find at home or in the classroom to decorate the mask. As you can see, this is the final product for one of the groups. These are the 4 group members. They were really creative, and each mask has exaggerated facial expressions that should connect with the characters in their script. At the end of this unit, the students then present a performance of their play. They're all dressed in black, and they utilize the classroom space to present their play. If this was to be done virtually, the 2 main actors, again, would use the mask to indicate a change in character, and the chorus would do the same where they'll turn on their cameras to deliver the lines. They would just not be able to utilize the space and do a lot of movement because they're on camera. You can use any type of available material. My kids are using paper mache. You may use paper plates to make the mask, paper, whatever type of art material that you have. They can certainly use it to make these masks and find creative ways to hold them in place as they are performing. Now here is my second unit that I'd like to share with you. This particular unit is probably one of my most favorite ones. I look forward to teaching this unit every year, and I think it's great, especially around Black History Month. Actually, I'm currently teaching this unit in one of my classrooms, and it's a unit that covers African American theater. I usually start off this unit by asking my students to list their favorite actors or African American actors that they've seen on screen, movies, TVs, plays. They can list their favorite screenwriters, favorite directors. So they list as many names as they can. We talk about those individuals. And then we discuss theater in this country going all the way back from minstrelsy to present day. And we talk about the progress and the changes and some of the major events that happened during that time that progressed or developed African American theater. Then we discuss some major playwrights. There are some really great resources on the Godot website, PowerPoints that I've used when I'm teaching this lesson. It outlines several different Black playwrights, and whenever I'm teaching this lesson, I always find it useful to use that to share with my students. But we do discuss major Black playwrights, and then I will pick one particular play by one of the listed playwrights, and we would read the play, analyze it, and discuss it. Now, depending on the age group, whether it's 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, or in cases if you happen to teach high school, of course you want to pick material that is appropriate for your class and the age group of those students. I've used August Wilson material. I've also used Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun when teaching this particular unit, but you can use any play that's written by a Black playwright. I'm currently teaching this unit, so I'm having my students look at some of August Wilson plays, and then they're going to be doing scene work as well as some monologue work, and they're going to be submitting their monologues to the August Wilson monologue competition. But again, these are all advanced activities for older students. I've taught to my younger students. I've looked at A Raisin in the Sun, and we read that play. Before reading the play, we looked at Langston Hughes' A Dream Deferred, and I read that poem to them. We talked about imagery and meaning in that poem, and then we read the play. We made connections. We discussed the characters and the themes. I asked them if they've ever had a dream, something that they really, really wanted, but was not able to get it when they wanted to. They had to wait. So we talk about those things. We talk about members in their family that may be able to identify with the struggle or the issues of the characters in the play in terms of wanting and being so passionate about something and then not being able to get it and facing disappointment and overcoming that. We talk about the historical background of the characters and the time period of A Raisin in the Sun. And then at the end of that unit, they have a choice board. So they can choose to do a scene with a partner, a favorite scene from the play. They can choose to do a monologue from the play. They can do a set design for the play. They can do costume design for the major characters in the play. They can even write a paper that analyzes the themes and the characters in the play, or compare the poem or connect the poem with what they read in the script. So these are just ideas of different activities that you can use at the end of the units. And again, you can pick any play that's written by a Black playwright and use it as a part of this unit. Now, let's talk about some strategies that I've used in my classroom management strategies, as well as engagement strategies that I've used and found to be quite helpful in my classroom. Classroom management strategies. I will say when I first started teaching high school, this was one of my challenges. A young teacher in large classrooms in a very small space. So I had to really find mentors and do my own research in finding strategies that will help to eliminate the distractions and the behavioral issues in my classroom. And here are some of those that I found helpful. I found it helpful to set a daily routine. This ensured that from the beginning of the class. The moment the students walk in the class, they're occupied, and eliminates an opportunity for them to be distracted. So they would have a bell ringer at the beginning of class. It could be a word search, it could be a puzzle, it could be a video that they have to watch, but they always had something that they had to do as they enter the room. Then following, they would do a warm-up. We would meet at the center of the room and we would go through these yoga stretches and shake downs just to warm up their bodies. I found that this made them more present and aware that this is a space that we're in. We're in a creative space and this is what we're going to do. We are an ensemble, and it really just centers them. So we do some type of warm up followed by an improv game or activity. As you can see, next on my list are student leaders. I would sometimes assign a student a day to lead the warm up. So as soon as they were done with the bell ringer, the bell rang, it's time to start class. They would all meet in the center, and myself or the student leader will go ahead and lead warm up. And that also gives me some time if I need to set up the classroom in between classes to make sure we're ready. It gives me some time to do that. The student leaders are also very helpful because I do a lot of group work and group project, and they do a lot of things, whether it's 2 people working together or maybe 4 people. So I do a lot of that stuff. So identifying my student leaders, the ones who are trustworthy, respectful, and has those great leadership qualities, identifying that and giving them those responsibilities have been quite helpful for me, even in the virtual classroom, as I'm putting them in small groups to work. Strategically placing those student leaders in particular groups helps to eliminate the chaos and the disruption. As well as identifying those students who tend to be distracted, I find that sometimes giving them some type of responsibility keeps them accountable and keeps them occupied. So that also helped me to eliminate some of the classroom management issues. Also, I use call and response. So there are tons that you can use. In particular, I may say, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Hopefully, I don't have to say if you can hear me 3 times or 4 times. Hopefully that works and it gets their attention. But just that call and response when things are getting too loud or I need to grab their attention or bring their focus, I can use that to refocus them or get their attention. I also use a class mantra. And this I use in particular at the end of the day. Once we're done with our lesson, we turn in our assignment, we've done our exit ticket. Before they walk out the door, we would stand in a circle, or on Zoom, everybody had their camera on, and they recite the mantra. At the beginning of the semester, they may not have it memorized, so I might lead it and they repeat, or I may have a classmate lead and they repeat the mantra. This is just a way to close out on a positive note. It leaves them with an encouragement. It's a way for them to depart. The next thing that I do to eliminate or to minimize any classroom issues, I also do a weekly check-in with parents of students who are absent, as well as students who are disruptive in class. I try my very best to contact parents right away when an issue arises, but I also do check in with parents on Wednesdays and also on Fridays. And I do this not just for students who are disruptive, but especially for students' behavior is improving. I'll make sure I communicate with the parent to let them know how the child is doing, or if there's an issue, what are the issues that we need to address. I find that I don't have as much classroom management issues, if at all, in the virtual classroom in terms of students unmuting themselves and blurting things out. In fact, I'm trying to get them to communicate and open up more. So I don't have a lot of those issues in the virtual classroom. They're very respectful of each other, taking turns. They use the raise the hand feature if they need to speak, or they'll put something in the chat they want to address to everyone. Now, another strategy I've also used is conferencing with students in small groups. So I will put them in breakout rooms and I'm able to talk with them and address them one-on-one or in those small groups. And I find that working in small groups keeps them engaged. So it's also an engagement strategy. And with that engagement, it eliminates the distraction and the disruption. And this is for virtually as well as in person. Now, here are some engagement strategies. And I know this is something that teachers are finding difficult, more so now that we're virtual, really keeping our students engaged in our lesson. And I know different counties and districts have different rules and requirements as it pertains to cameras being on. So sometimes not being able to actually see those students can let us feel very disconnected. We're already in different spaces. So the challenge of keeping them engaged and present in the classroom can certainly be a challenge. But here are just a list of strategies that I found that have been helpful to increase engagement, and these are applicable online as well as in person. So I greet my students as they enter the room, the virtual room or the classroom. I greet them, good morning, Charles. Good morning, Ashley. How are you today? I inquire how they're doing, how they're feeling, just building that rapport and chit chat with them. And especially online, I really try to do that to allow the students to know that I know who you are. I want to get to know you. We're not just logging in and listening and then we log out. And that once they feel comfortable and we build that rapport, I find that they'll engage and want to participate in the games and volunteer to present a lot more. I also display my daily agenda and expectations for the day. It is usually on the board if we're in the classroom, or it's on my PowerPoint when I'm sharing my screen in the virtual classroom. So they are aware of exactly what we're doing for the day. I find that helpful because a lot of times kids ask me, Miss Henry, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? It's on the board, check the agenda. And especially if it's something that they're really excited about, they're already starting off the class with a positive energy and willingness to participate. The next thing is I assign a daily participation grade. So your participation in class discussions, your participation in the activities, completing the classwork. I have a participation rubric that I've shared with them so they're aware exactly what I'm grading. But they do receive a grade every single day, 10 points, and then at the end of the week, it accumulates to 50 points. And that just encourages them to make sure that they're participating, and the rubric allows them to monitor and to see, oh, I didn't do this, so this is what I'm going to get today. I also do a lot of check for understanding in the midst of my lesson. They can respond in the chat feature, a thumbs up, thumbs down if they're not understanding. I also randomly select students to be called on, and I got this idea from another teacher. He used popsicle sticks and he would write the student's name on there, and during class discussions or just activities that require him to call on students, he would pull a name and that person would have to respond. For my class online, I used what's called Spin the Wheel. It is free. It's just a program I found online, and I'm able to type in the student's name and I click OK. It spins, and whoever's name it lands on, that's the person who has to respond. And I'll share my screen so the kids are able to see, and they're like, oh my gosh, who is it? Who's going to get called on? And oh, it's me, so I'm going to share. And I give them the option of sharing in the chat or just speaking out loud. So things like that keeps them attentive during class. I also utilize a lot of technology in the classroom. So instead of them using it just to be on their phones or watching games and videos, I try to incorporate it into the lesson. So they may use their phone to play games like Kahoot or quizzes, or they may use their phone to quickly research and look up something, post a question, and they got to quickly use their phone to look it up and then share the answer with the class, or the web quest activity. Those are some ways that I incorporate technology that keeps them engaged and interested in what we're doing. Also, a lot of the small groups, I find that some students prefer to work in the small groups. We can do more class discussions and they'll be more readily engaged in those discussions than we're doing it in large groups. I also used shared docs, so things like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, which allows students to collaborate while they're in different spaces, collaborate and work on a particular assignment. So if it's making a PowerPoint about one of the jobs in theater or their favorite actor, or whether it's collaborating to write a scene or a 10-minute play, they're able to collaborate using that document. And that's one way they're able to engage and interact with each other, even though they're in different places. A lot of project-based learning. It allows the classroom to be more student-centered and less of me talking and presenting information. So it being hands-on, and even while virtually being able to engage with students, engage with each other to complete these projects also increase engagement and interest. I invite guests to my classroom. So this week, in fact, I invited teaching artists from True Colors Theater, and they're working with my students, and it's just refreshing for them to see another face instructing and working with them. I find that sometimes they're a bit more eager to participate because it's a new face. So if you're able to invite different teaching artists or friends that are experts in your field to talk to your students, I think that's one way to increase the engagement. Lastly, I participate with my students. So sometimes when we're doing improv or scene work, I'll get on the floor with them and work. And I find that them seeing me actively participate in the lesson encourages them to take risk and to participate because they see Miss Henry doing it. And if I mess up, it's okay. Miss Henry messed up. It's all right if I make a mistake. And we learn from it and we realize that it's a part of the process. And it also makes me a part of the ensemble. As I've mentioned in my first video, that idea of being a part of the ensemble is very important to me. And that is one way I find that I'm able to build that rapport and increase engagement in my classroom. That is the end of this webinar. I hope that you were able to find the information that I shared useful, whether it's the lessons that I've mentioned or the strategies. I hope that you have found it useful. Please, if you have any questions or ideas that you'd like to share, please include those in the discussion on our PLC group in the Godot community. Also, don't forget to click the notification button so you're able to get quick email updates on anything that's happening in our PLC community. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we also have a YouTube channel. So follow us on all social media platforms. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And I hope you were able to take at least one thing from this webinar. Have a wonderful day. Bye.